Imagine this for a second. The entire world depends on a few narrow paths across oceans, and right now, those paths are slowly turning into danger zones. These are not just routes for ships, they are the lifelines of food, fuel, and everything you use in your daily life. But behind the scenes, powerful nations are competing to control these routes, turning them into silent battlefields. And what happens next will shock you, because if these routes fail, the world could face a collapse no one is ready for. Global trade routes carry more than 90% of the world's goods, connecting continents through oceans and strategic waterways. From oil in the Middle East to electronics from Asia and food supplies from different regions, everything moves through these paths. These routes pass through critical choke points like narrow seas and canals, where even a small disruption can stop global flow. And when these lifelines are threatened, the effects are felt instantly across the world. Today, these routes are under pressure due to rising geopolitical tensions between major powers competing for influence and control. Regions like the South China Sea and key shipping lanes have become hotspots where military presence continues to increase. Countries are not just protecting their interests, they are preparing for potential control over these strategic pathways. But wait till you hear this part, because even a minor conflict here can trigger a global chain reaction. When a single trade route is blocked, shipments are delayed, and supply chains begin to break almost immediately. Oil supply slows down, fuel prices rise, and transportation becomes more expensive across entire economies. Goods take longer to reach markets, causing shortages and increasing prices for everyday items. And suddenly, a distant conflict starts affecting your daily life without warning. As disruptions grow, inflation spreads rapidly, making food, fuel, and basic goods harder to afford for millions of people. Businesses struggle with higher costs, reducing production and laying off workers to survive. Families begin to feel the pressure as their income no longer matches rising expenses. And this economic stress slowly transforms into a global crisis. Food supply chains are especially vulnerable when trade routes are disrupted, as delays prevent crops from reaching markets. Countries that rely on imports face immediate shortages, while exporters limit supply to protect their own populations. Supermarkets begin to empty, and people start to panic as essential items disappear from shelves. What started as geopolitical tension now becomes a fight for survival. Poverty increases as economic conditions worsen, pushing more people into financial instability and uncertainty. Small businesses shut down, unemployment rises, and governments struggle to maintain stability within their borders. Social unrest begins to grow as frustration spreads among people facing shortages and rising costs. And internal stability within countries starts to weaken rapidly. But wait till you hear this part, because global trade routes are not just economic tools, they are instruments of power. Nations that control these routes can influence global markets, control resources, and shape political decisions worldwide. This creates a new world order where power is concentrated among a few dominant players. And this imbalance increases the risk of conflict even further. Now imagine tensions escalating to the point where these routes become direct targets of military action. Naval blockades are established, ships are attacked, and major ports are shut down in strategic regions. Entire trade routes become unsafe, forcing global shipping to stop or take longer, riskier paths. And the global supply system begins to collapse under pressure. What happened next will surprise you, because the effects go far beyond trade and begin to impact basic human survival. Hospitals run out of medicine, industries lack raw materials, and transportation systems begin to fail. People are forced to change their daily lives, focusing on survival rather than comfort or routine. And the world starts to feel unstable in ways never experienced before. In the most extreme scenario, geopolitical tensions escalate into full-scale conflict between major powers. The use of advanced weapons and the threat of nuclear strikes introduce unimaginable destruction. But wait till you hear this part, because the real damage goes beyond explosions and immediate loss. Global trade routes would collapse completely, leaving no system to support recovery. A nuclear event could contaminate key regions, making them unusable for trade, production, and human life. Food production would decline sharply as environmental damage spreads across affected areas. Countries would isolate themselves, focusing only on survival within their own borders. And the world would break into disconnected regions, struggling to survive. A nuclear winter could follow, reducing sunlight and lowering global temperatures dramatically. Agriculture would fail, ecosystems would collapse, and food scarcity would affect billions of people worldwide. Mass migration would begin as people search for safer places, creating new conflicts over limited resources. And survival would become the defining challenge for humanity. But here is something unexpected, because even in chaos, human behavior begins to shape different outcomes. Some communities come together, sharing resources and building systems to support each other. Others fall into conflict, where scarcity leads to competition and violence over basic needs. And this contrast reveals both the strength and vulnerability of humanity. Meanwhile, governments attempt to adapt by creating alternative routes and investing in local production systems. Countries begin focusing on self-sufficiency to reduce dependence on global trade networks. Technology helps rebuild parts of the system, but trust between nations remains fragile, and the global system begins to transform into something entirely different. But here is the most important part. Because much of this is not purely fictional, it reflects real risks already visible today. Recent disruptions have shown how fragile global trade routes can be when faced with conflict or instability. These events act as warnings, giving humanity a chance to prepare and prevent a larger crisis. And understanding these systems may be the key to protecting our future. So next time you hear about tensions in distant seas or conflicts near important trade routes, think about their impact. Think about how these invisible pathways connect your daily life to the rest of the world. Because the global system depends on them more than most people realize. And once they break, rebuilding them may take far longer than anyone expects. If this story made you think differently about the world, then you are already one step ahead. Because awareness is the first step toward change, and understanding leads to better decisions. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more powerful and eye-opening stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think global trade routes can survive future conflicts, or are we already closer to collapse than we realize?